Hi everyone, Aiden here with etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how the Yakima JayLow J-Style Kayak Carrier fits on top of our 2022 Ford Maverick. With this being a J-Style Kayak Carrier, it's going to be shaped kind of like a J and hold the kayak more upright like you see here. Personally, J-Style is one of my favorites just because it cradles the kayak really well, makes a lot of contact with the hull of the boat for a very solid fit. But then also, because we're holding it vertical like this, we can do a lot more with our roof rack, whether that's fitting another kayak up there on the other side, or maybe we've got a box or a basket on the other side that we want to put some extra stuff in. We can do that, and we have those options because we're not taking up the whole roof space with a single boat. And here in the bed of the truck, you can see just how much roof space we have left on the Maverick. Well over half the roof rack is still available for things to put up here. So again, if you wanted to put a second kayak up here or a box or a basket, you'd have plenty of room to do so. I will say that with it like this, we've got the upright portion a little bit back like this to make room for our larger boat. With the JayLow, you do have the option to have this vertical piece straight upright, and then with an extra strap kit, you could put a second boat back here and just have it set down on the crossbars using the upright for support. There's going to be some limitations if we do that. Like I said, you will need to pick up a second strap kit, and it does reduce the weight capacity a little bit. So with a single boat like this, the carrier can support 80 pounds. If you're going to be doing that two boat method, in total you can only support 110 pounds. So for me personally, I'd just look into getting a second J-Style carrier for the other side of the roof. So the things that hold this into the carrier itself are going to be the straps. And the strap kit that comes with the JayLow is pretty okay. The main two ones around the body of the boat here are going to be very standard cam buckle straps with a thick rubber padding around the outside of that cam buckle to protect your boat from any scratches or scuffs, and they get a nice tight hold. One thing I do wish is that the carrier had dedicated routing holes for those straps. Some other nicer carriers have those options, and it just makes the setup process a lot easier overall. But then, aside from that, they're pretty okay. For the bow and stern tie downs, these ones are going to be a little bit more basic. Up top, we've got a section that will just feed through a strap and a buckle. So that's really easy because we don't have to tie any knots like we would with a rope. But then on the end, it's going to just be an S-hook. And that S-hook end will need a good tie down point. Luckily for us, we've got plenty of tie down points in the bed to choose from. Or if you had a hitch and maybe a longer boat, you could use the safety chain loops on your hitch. There's a sort of silicone sleeve on the outside of the strap, so if it does come in contact with your vehicle anywhere, this can protect the paint. You can see back here though, we didn't need it. Now the limitations of the S-hook are going to be seen at the front of the vehicle, where we don't really have a solid tie-down point. We're using a hood anchor right now, which is just a foam piece slammed into the hood with a free end of a strap fed outside where we can actually hook to. These are not included with your kit, so you will need to pick them up separately, and it is required for the Maverick to get a good solid fit on that front strap. Certain other carriers, like the etrailer one, actually come with those straight out of the box, and other carriers just don't need them at all if they use a certain method of tie down. Now, again, with this needing the S-hooks and a solid point to hook into, you will need them for the JayLow. The other thing here is that you have to tie up all the excess strap. That's a minor complaint from me. I just don't like having to mess with all of that. Some straps have a dedicated loop where you can just feed it all through and kind of hook it to itself rather than having to tie a knot in the strap, because especially with these straps, they don't always tie super well and they don't stay super secure. But that's just, again, a minor complaint. That might not be a big deal for you, but for me, I like it when the straps are just easy to use. Now, getting this all unloaded is pretty straightforward. I like to do the bow and the stern first, just undoing the S-hook, pulling all of that strap out through the free end of the buckle. Now, if you want to just leave this in place, you can, but that can just come off of a solid point of your boat as well. And you can see how it attaches, just feeding through itself to create a loop. Now the main cam buckle straps here are gonna have that same strap issue where you've got a lot of excess and you have to put it somewhere. So just be mindful of that. Again, if it bothered you before, it's probably gonna be a same or similar issue here. And then the cam buckles, just depress that button, pull out the strap, and I'm actually going to leave it set up somewhat for now, just setting it off to the side so I can show you how you would have it whenever you're loading your boat. So I'll just take it to the side for now on either end. With all the straps undone, we can get the boat unloaded. At the very front of the carrier, we've got these small load ramps. They don't do a whole lot, except for when you are loading it up, it's nice to have a flat surface that you can kind of rest the boat on so it doesn't get bound up on your crossbars or on other J-style carriers that come to more of a point. It doesn't get bound up there, so you can kind of set it and push it up into place. I'll try to demonstrate that a little bit, but for unloading, I usually just like to tip it towards me and just sort of catch it as it comes down like this, and then I can walk it away. For the loading process, here's what that might look like, kind of using those ramps as a guide to push it up into place and set it into the cradles like that. So again, it does make that loading process a lot easier, especially if you're doing it on your own and you don't have an extra set of hands to help you lift it into place. And when you are loading it up, you're gonna want to pre-thread your straps like this just through the carrier and have them set up. It's really hard to keep them up top like this though, because they have a tendency just to kind of fall down. Some carriers have a slot at the top that'll keep the strap in place. It just makes the loading up and strapping it down a lot easier. So again, a minor complaint, but for a more premium carrier, I would expect it to have a feature like that. Now with the kayak unloaded, we can take a closer look at the carrier itself. We've got lots of padding all throughout it. The base is going to be a rubber material, which is very durable against any water that might be getting on this. And then the uprights have a thick foam padding with a sort of coating on the outside that's going to help protect it just compared to basic standard foam. So the materials are really nice, and I do think it will hold up pretty well over time. And then all the metal pieces, of course, are aluminum. This is a folding carrier, so on the outside we've got a red lever that we can pull to fold it down and save space, or bring it upright to actually use. Now that will change your height measurements a little bit. I'll put it straight upright, so if you do plan on using it in this configuration, you can kind of see how tall it's gonna sit. From the top of the crossbars to the top of the carrier, it's gonna be about 19 inches. Now obviously, as you add a kayak, it's gonna be a lot taller, just keep that in mind. But when it's not in use and we wanna fold it down, it does save a lot of space. In this configuration, it only sticks up 4 inches from the top of the crossbar, so it saves a lot of roof space, and you can just leave it on your roof rack so it's ready to go for the next time. At the front end of the carrier, there is a spot where we could add some lock cores after the fact. It doesn't come included with them, but if security is really important to you, you can add them here and make sure that the carrier stays locked to your roof rack. Right next to that spot for the lock cores, you'll notice some hand knobs. This is going to be to loosen or tighten the clamps that are actually holding it onto our crossbars, making it a completely tool-free install. So it does work really well for that. It's easy to get on or off of the roof. And just with both of those clamps in the front and back, the hand knobs are very easy to operate, especially once they have mostly released their tension. So if you want that ease of use, then you're gonna get it at least with the install process. And then once you've got it loose enough, you can just get it off the crossbar like that. And when they tighten, it'll just tighten around the side of the crossbar here. And overall, I think the JayLow is a pretty solid option for the Maverick. It's pretty easy to load and unload the boat with those included ramps on the front. The tool-free install makes it very easy to get on the crossbars, especially with the height of the truck. You can get to it from the ground fairly easily. You've got the option for additional security down the road if you want it. My one complaint is that the straps just aren't super easy to set up. You're gonna need that additional hood anchor for the front end, and then for the sides, there's not any great places on the carrier to route your straps through to make that initial tie-down process easier for the boat. But once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad, and if you're willing to look past those issues, then there are a lot of ease of use features that do make it a good carrier to use and a good fit for the 2022 Ford Maverick.